Hello, members. Tom Morrison here from the National Office in Nashville, Tennessee of the Metal Trading Institute. We're excited to see you today. Hope weather is doing well your way. We're here today to talk about business insurance, a massive pain point for so many members that we've seen coming out of our online forums and our surveys that we've done. It's just a big deal for people. But real quick before we jump into that, so just want to welcome everybody and let you know a couple of big things. One, there's a chat box down. If you hover down to the bottom and click chat, you'll see it pop up, and you can submit questions to me and Jonathan. I'll be monitoring that chat box. So if you have any questions that you can jump in and ask, and we'll get those answered for you throughout the webcast. And then also a couple of big happenings coming up with MTI. Obviously, everybody knows about Furnaces North America 2022. Jonathan's team is going to be there as well to talk to you in person if you're going to be there. But October 3rd to the 5th, 127 exhibitors, 35 technical sessions, and just over 1,000 people coming from all over the world to talk about heat treating. So it's going to be awesome. So if you're not registered and you're close, you drive in. It's a great opportunity to really connect in on all the latest changes and developments in equipment and processes and materials coming our way in the future. The second thing is in October, we have the NADCAP meeting as well in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. MTI, if you're in the NADCAP world, you're in the aerospace field, you're doing heat treating for aerospace and airplanes, you come to the NADCAP meeting. MTI is holding a meeting on day 1 for 2 hours for members to come together, just members, and talk about the issues that are on your minds with our leadership of our Technical Standards Committee. And then on Tuesday nights, we host a 2-hour reception for all the members to really kind of connect and network on the issues of the day that happen that day. It's always very interactive and high discussions. And so we invite you to come to that. You should be receiving an invite later this week or first of next week to get to both of those events. So without further ado, what we want to talk about today is with Jonathan Dochterman from Precision Manufacturing Insurance Services. Jonathan, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
So we came across Jonathan from a couple of members who actually already have insurance with Jonathan. They said, Tom, you have to get this company involved with the Metal Treating Institute and our members. Excuse me. And my biggest question was why. They said, Tom, they're saving us tons of money for better qualified coverage for heat treaters. And right now, so Jonathan, just tell everybody a little bit about PMIS and you and the company and where y'all going.
Absolutely. So we were founded in 2010. We're a boutique niche insurance firm fulfilling the mission of protecting the future of manufacturers. We do this by creating and providing exclusive insurance options to companies in the metal and plastic industry. 100% of our resources are dedicated to serving the metal and plastic industry, including HR services, safety services, claims management. And soon to come in 2023, we're going to be actively working on getting the youth of America interested in manufacturing by providing shop owners and shop executives a blueprint and resources to go to their local high schools and work with kids in the area, which we're very passionate about. Internally, a little bit about us. Our staff is like family. We strive to have a vibrant and supportive, collaborative environment. I personally subscribe to servant leadership, which means my job is to serve my staff and clients and provide my staff the resources to serve all of you. So everyone serves upline. And on a personal note about me, I'm married to a wonderful woman, have 5 beautiful children, and I've been in the insurance industry now for 15 years. First 3 years, we're at Marsh & McLennan, which is the largest insurance brokerage in the world. I received great training there, had a great time, but ultimately I decided I didn't want to work for corporate America, the man anymore. And so that's why we founded Precision Manufacturing Insurance Services. And personally, I enjoy outdoor activities like hiking, off-roading, shooting, fishing, surfing, and of course, playing with my kids. So,
well, you know, two things, Jonathan. One, MTI is a very family-oriented group, so I'm sure that they get a chance to meet you and your family. They will love that. Everybody loves it. It's a very family-nurturing group. And the second thing is our members love anybody trying to drive employees of the next generation to the industry, right? Because every industry out there is having a tough time, and manufacturing and in general, and heat treaters would love any kind of a, we have a site called heattreatcareers.com, which is kind of tells the story of what heat treating is and why work in it as a career. So matched up with some things you're doing, I'm sure we'd like to collaborate and see how that can happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But one of the big things we want to talk, so over the past few months, we have surveyed our members. We've asked them what their pain points were. And it's everything from our members are getting high rate increases. They're getting refused to quote, to renew. They're even getting cancellations. And some insureds are just getting out of the heat treat business. So I mean, in your world, when it comes to manufacturers, specifically heat treating, what's going on with the insurers out there?
Yeah, so in general, property losses and auto losses in America are on the rise. There's been regions that have been burning, and people on the auto side continue to text and drive, and so which creates more accidents. So due to these losses, carriers across the board for all industries are increasing their auto and property pricing, and even pulling off policies. And for heat treaters specifically, there's a huge property risk, due to the nature of the operations. Carriers have experienced losses with heat treaters, and are pulling out of this kind of risk. They just find it to be too risky of an operation. And the standard carriers are afraid of heat treating risks like Travelers and Century. And so brokers are having to quote each line of coverage, like workers' comp, property, liability, auto, all separately, and which can get very expensive.
Right.
And the other issue is that there aren't a lot of brokers that are aware of the risk profile of heat treaters. So when a broker sends a submission in to a carrier, they're not able to knowledgeably educate their carriers and underwriters about the risk profile or include target pricing and coverage. And so because of this, underwriters, because of the brokers' lack of knowledge, just aren't comfortable writing the risk. And so there aren't a lot of carriers out there right now with an appetite for this market.
So you led into my second question about, so what about the members' local agent? A lot of our members, obviously, they do business with their brother-in-law, their friend from church, or somebody they've had a relationship for quite a long time. But, it's one thing when you're paying $150,000 for a policy that you can get from $100,000 from, say, PMIS through MTI. So what do you feel is the misunderstanding of most local agents in terms of underwriting the risk?
Yeah, the challenge is that most brokers are generalist brokers. We call them AFM. They're selling anything for money. They're not specialists. And so everyone that says they're a specialist, we always ask, how many of them have customized forms in your industry or specialty programs for your industry? And how many of the brokers you work with have the word manufacturing in their name? It's just there are not specialist brokers out there, not a lot of them that are doing what we're doing. And so shops typically look at brokers and always want to look at pricing. And so, I always ask, when I talk to a shop, do you interview your broker? I mean, your broker is the one that's going to be protecting your generational assets. And so how important is it for them to be a specialist? And so, because of our reputation specialty, we can educate our underwriters. As we say, sell your risk to an underwriter better than a generalist broker would, which thus allows us to, get better pricing and coverage.
So I think one of the key phrases that y'all said in your interview with our board that really struck home with them is that you basically said that your job is not to find insurance for the company. Your job is to sell the company's risk to the underwriter. And that's a totally different perspective in trying to go about placing insurance.
Yes.
So
yeah, I mean, carriers are in the business of making money. Okay. And so when they look at a risk, they evaluate all the loss history, they evaluate what could happen, what could not happen. And so if we're not able to convey a story to them that makes sense for them to put their money to provide a financial backstop for your company, they're not going to do it. And so that's why it's our job to dive into your business and then explain to them why they should put their money on you, why they should do it.
So you talk about coverages and forms and stuff that some don't understand and some do. But so what are some of the key forms and coverages that you feel heat treaters are missing out on or should be paying close attention to when you go to put their insurance in place?
Yeah, so one of the big ones I usually see is that policies usually lack coverage for property of others. Okay, every heat treater has equipment that they own, but all the material that goes in and out of your shop is owned by a customer, and so you have to specifically spell out on a policy property of others. In our case, we include property of others as contents, but this is something I see all the time being an issue. Also, a lot of heat treaters have underground tanks and pipes and foundational work that a standard policy doesn't cover. So we include coverage for the foundations and all the specialty tanks underground. And we pretty frequently see a lot of issues with equipment breakdown. These machines can malfunction. And if you don't have adequate limits for equipment breakdown or their exclusions for specific type of equipment breakdown losses, it's going to be very challenging for that policy to be paid. The other thing that we see pretty frequently is that every property policy has loss of income coverage, which is money that you would get if you had a major loss to keep yourself afloat. Okay, a lot of policies have a 6-month time frame for loss of income. The challenge is, specifically for heat treaters, is how long would it really take you to get back up and running if your building burned down? It's not like you can just get into a rental facility overnight and have the right power and have the equipment come to you right away. So you have to write loss of income in a way that does not have a time limit on it, that will adequately protect the company and pay the company while they are rebuilding. And again, for a heat treater, this is a big issue because it's not like you can get equipment, in a week or two from somewhere. So some of the other things I've seen a lack of auto coverage for some of these heat treaters as well, because some of them say that, because if we don't have a delivery truck, we don't have an auto exposure. But a lot of times, shops will send home parts with a shop guy to drop off at their local client, and there's an auto exposure there. So all these things, whenever we look at a policy, we fully review what they're currently purchasing, and then we provide, coverage and stuff that we have specifically built and customized over the years, and then fully explain, educate the client on what they're buying and why they're buying it. Because these heat traders, spend a lot of money on insurance.
Yeah.
So if they're going to buy it, it better be something that's going to adequately protect them. Because if you buy coverage that's not going to protect you, if you have a major loss, you might as well save your money and not buy it. And
Well, it's been interesting. I know y'all have already written a couple of members and some non-members before we came to you. So what kind of money are y'all traditionally saving some of these companies from what they're renewing at to what they're actually getting qualified coverage for?
Yeah, so I typically say we'll save our clients 10 to 30% is pretty common. But I've seen in the last few months that be higher. I've seen pricing get cut in half. I've seen, north of 30%. But here's the thing. Our first job is to make sure that our clients are adequately protected. And so if I were to quote simply apples to apples with what's being currently purchased, the savings would be even higher. But I want to make sure, again, that the members and our clients are adequately protected. And then the second goal is to save money. And like I said, typically 10 to 30% and north of that is what I've been seeing. Because, go ahead, Tom.
I just say, I know the latest one that someone called and said, hey, thank you. They saved a fair, it was more than 30% for sure. So great job. So let me ask you something. So a heat treater is looking at his operations. An insurance company is assessing risk.
Yes.
So the things that you see inside of a shop and things that you've been underwriting since you've been underwriting heat treaters, what are some key elements that a heat treater can do to improve on their operation to minimize the risk inside their operation, so they are obviously getting the best premium for the attraction?
Absolutely. So a couple things. First off, because we see a lot of equipment breakdown claims, having a well-documented preventative maintenance program on all of your equipment is pretty key. We see a lot of frequency of claims in this area, which makes a shop less attractive to a carrier. We send them a submission, and there's all this history of equipment breakdown claims. Also, installing security cameras is also really important. Helps prevent thefts. Carriers really like to see that. Regularly inspecting your roof, electrical, plumbing, HVAC is also key, especially because carriers' main issue with heat treaters is property. So if we can make your property look as attractive as possible and as safe as possible, then that helps us do our job to sell your risk to an underwriter. And the first thing that goes in a fire is your roof. Your roof comes down.
Yeah.
And so we always like to, inspect your roof for holes. Also prevents rain. Electrical is important because electrical starts fires. Fire suppression systems are also paramount. typically you talk to the underwriter and they look at a building, they say, it's not sprinklered. We don't want this building. We don't want this risk. And the thing is that water is not really the best fire suppression system in a heat treating operation. And so a normal broker would send that submission and the underwriter would say, we don't want it, it's not sprinklered, and it would be declined. And so for us, we ask, what type of fire suppression systems do you have in place? And this could be fire suppression systems next to the machines. It could be inside of it. I've seen those happen. I've seen some machines have alarms. So if the heat goes up or down any certain amount that it's not supposed to, an alarm goes off or the machine kicks off. Any of those kind of systems that I can convey to an underwriter that you have in place is key, because again, it's all about preventing the fire. They're concerned about your building burning down. They're concerned about having to, pay off the building, a couple $1 million and all the contents inside of it, plus all the loss of income they're going to have to pay after you have that loss. So, and the last part of property, I would say, I know all of you guys like having really cool pictures of flames and rocket engines and, these giant blue and colorful flames in your shops. And I get it, it looks cool. But in this day and age, underwriters always review your website. And so when we talk about, they have fire suppression systems and it's safe, and they see this giant flame coming out the side of the building. Yeah, exactly. That's not really attractive to an underwriter. So if there's a way to maybe change the picture or do something like that, it would certainly help from an underwriting perspective. A couple other things from a liability perspective, I've seen where it's pretty common if a heat treater, damages their custom material while it's in process, they're typically liable for 3 times the value of the job. And so I always say, make sure to have this in writing from your customer. I know a lot of shops will just it's understood.
Now, let me ask you something. 3 times the value, is that if the job costs $10,000 and only costs $2,500 to heat treat it, is it 3 times the 10 or 3 times the 2,500?
So for instance, if the heat treater is getting paid $10,000, okay, then they are going to be on the hook for $30,000 for that job. Now they could have $100,000 piece of titanium in their shop, and the customer is going to say, well, how come you damaged my $100,000 piece of titanium? And then, the heat treater will say, we're only liable for 3 times the value of that job. So in product losses, it's just good to have that kind of thing in writing, not just understood amongst you and your customer. Okay?
Well, the great thing about that connection is because MTI for years has had what it's called the Statement of Limited Liability. And we have a copyrighted approved 1-page document that goes on. Not everybody's crazy for not using it, but we have most of the heat treaters that are members of ours have that on the back of their PO and or have it signed off on every job by the customer, where I think it's either 2 or 3 times the heat treat charges.
Yeah.
So most of our companies have that carte blanche in their stuff, which we're actually, now that we have this relationship, we're going to actually go back and start reinforcing and educating our members on why it's so important to have that one document on everything you do with a customer.
Absolutely. And the last thing is, from a liability perspective, I've been seeing more and more lawsuits from third-party vendors on site. So the vendors could be like a plumber, electrician, janitor, maintenance. And what a lot of times happen is the shops will have some shop guy who has a cousin that does that work. Okay. And the problem is when that guy comes on site and does that work and gets hurt, they're going to sue because they don't typically have workers' comp coverage. And then, my client's on the hook for it. So I always suggest, if you guys use third-party services for roofing, painting, any of that, to use a larger firm, use someone that can evidence workers' comp coverage liability. And I even have a requirement sheet that I can send you, Tom, to distribute to everybody, of what you should require if you ever have a third party on your site. Because I had an instance where a roofer came out and put his foot through the roof, and sued my client for unsafe work conditions. Now we won that, we fought it, but I have another lawsuit where a guy was hired to clean a gutter and fell off his ladder and he's sued. It's just happening more and more. So,
well, I tell people, you got to understand, anytime you bring someone on your site, on your property lines, and they do any work at all, if anything goes wrong in that endeavor on their end, an attorney's going to come after somebody within that property.
Yeah. And then the last component here, from a workers' comp perspective, it's really good to have safety protocols in place, a safety committee, and it creates a safety culture. So if somebody does get hurt, they go to the clinic, get patched up, and then keep working. You don't have to deal with all the litigation of someone suing because they were injured and they just want to retire early. So it's really good from a work comp perspective, especially from the carrier, to identify what safety meetings are happening and what you are doing regularly to enforce safety in the shop.
So let's go back to the fire for a second. So, a number of our members have meetings with their local fire departments and stuff. So how important is that? And does the insurance carriers look at that if you show a documented opportunity, where you're connecting with your local fire department? Because like you say, in oil quenches and stuff like that, water's not the best thing to come rolling into the door with. So kind of walk through that. Is that an important aspect for every person, every company?
Yeah, any information that you can provide me about fire prevention is beneficial. So if you have a fire department a mile away, hugely beneficial. If you have water on site, I have some clients that have a lake on site that they can pump out of, or a fire hydrant on site. All things like that are beneficial because, if you tell me, we meet with our fire department, twice a year or once a year, that shows to me and to an underwriter that you are very serious about preventing a fire from happening in your shop. And so that's all the underwriter is looking for. They want to make sure that you're serious about this, that you're a good citizen, you care about your shop, and that you're doing everything you can to prevent a fire from happening. And if you want to access the programs that, have the great pricing and the great coverage, those kind of things, are beneficial to be in place. It doesn't mean that there's no option for you. It just means that you're probably going to end up paying more money than you would if you had all these things in place. So
talk to me about a little bit about like resources that you have that our members would be able to access once they're insured by one of your carriers. What are some resources they can gravitate to with regards to safety or just any of those kind of issues?
Yeah, so we have a full-time HR specialist on staff. So, clients can call us and ask us if they have any HR related questions. We also have access to an online portal that has safety assistance on it. There's safety compliance topics, safety meetings, things like that. We also can even contract, in certain states or all states to, depending on the premium size, we can also contract someone to come out on your site and do a walkthrough. Some of our clients, we even will pay for the monthly safety meetings that happen and occur in the shop. And so we also have, material, checklists and things like that you can do inside your shop. But, clients initially come to work with us because, we save them money up front, we provide the coverage, but they really stay with us because we provide them additional resources and value. If they call and say, hey, I have an issue in the shop, what do you suggest? And I could say, well, I have all these other clients that do this, or, I have another client that has gone through this. Why don't you call them and, and connect them? So.
Awesome. Well, so so you just talked a little bit for a second, but what separates PMIS, Precision Manufacturing Insurance Services? What kind of separates you from other companies out there, other insurance carriers?
So we're unique because we've created and built our own manufacturing programs instead of just trying to quote, the standard markets that are out there. And we customize and built the forms specifically for the metalworking and plastic industry. And we're also recognized in the insurance industry as being specialists. So underwriters really listen to us. and they trust our ability to field underwrite the risk. So if we're sending in an application, if two brokers are sending in an application, let's say to the same carrier, because of our reputation and because the explanation we're able to give to the underwriters are far more willing to listen to our story and hit our target pricing and underwrite a risk that a generalist broker would not be able to put through. And so, because of that, we're able to write deals that a common broker would not be able to do. And sometimes the clients, the underwriters will even ask us, well, why are you asking for that coverage? And so, we'll even end up educating the underwriter on why this is important. Why this specific coverage is important, why this preventative maintenance program or the fire suppression system will adequately protect it. And it's because of that reputation and knowledge that we're able to, work with these deals that a generalist broker would not be able to do.
Well, awesome. Well, Jonathan, we appreciate your time today. Members, this is a very big pain point. Many have told us, and we have now come with a viable solution that's already saving members 25 to 50% on some of their coverages and their premiums. So if you would like to get more information and see the information, you can go to our website at heattreat.net. That's heattreat.net. And at the top, you'll see it says benefits tab. Click that. And underneath there, it says business insurance. And you click that, and you can see information on our program and a link to send more information that goes directly to Jonathan's desk. And that him and his team will be in touch with you in a very short period of time for that. So we hope you tie into that and let us help you save some money and hope you get educated through the process. And so I want to thank y'all for attending today. And don't remember, put October 12th on your calendar, October 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. We got two great people who are going to talk about the world of carbon neutral. That's becoming a big deal in the near future, and you're going to need to know what it is and put it on your radar screen. It's going to be a big thing in the environmental sustainability arena that we're all kind of rocking into. So October 12th. So Jonathan, thank you so much today for being with us today. Members, thank you. And remember, always I say, you're not just strong, you're MTI strong. I will see you next month on MTI's webcast. Have a good day.
Thank you.